before we formally apprise, because large number of participants join for the first time, though many of them know what are the scheme of affairs we go about in this Zoom. Firstly, we will ask you just to give a talk around 40 to 50 minutes that we talk. Then Q&A session, invariably we don't allow anybody to unmute himself. He will post his question in the group chat. The team, we will look into it. We will post that question under your able AGs. You will advise them. The team out here would also try to see, and anybody else who wants to give an input, they can give input. He or she can post the message of the information. Number one. Number two, if he wants to pitch in her inputs, which could be better for everybody. A right information coming from a young lawyer, young student, a lawyer like Narinder would always be a factor which would be cherished by everybody. And Mr. Lakhanpal needs no introduction, at least in the northern area. The entire family, Lakhanpal means once you go to Sector 10, you just enter Sector 10, anybody out there could tell this is Mr. Lakhanpal's house. What we had the flavor during the village time that everybody knew what is the house. Not like the present era when people used to say, oh, he's my neighbor. I never knew that he's my neighbor. Mr. Lakhanpal has been the secretary of the Punjab and Haryana High Court Bar. He's the president. He's the president of the bar. Plus, he's a designated senior advocate. Not detaining further, Mr. Lakhanpal, the stage is all yours. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. I suppose many people will join later, so I need not introduce myself right now. I think I will be introducing myself later on. So, to begin with, I must say that I am not master of the subject. I am always a learner. I don't claim myself to be know-all person, that I know everything about any subject. I always try to gain whatever the knowledge I can gain, whatever possible from sources and my reach. So today we are on a chapter of suicide and dying declaration. Why I have united these two subjects, which are do independently, is that you always find dying declaration in suicides, maybe in form of suicide note or an oral dying declaration or anything else, which generally proves to be fatal or can be used or is rather used to convict a person. So that is why I want to share with you for the dying declaration and the suicide together, so that we have to see what can be done once there is a suicide note by a dead person, which is admissible in the per se without any corroboration, or we can say that without any corroboration or without any cross-examination of a witness, because he's no longer there. So friends, first I must say that I consider suicide to be the most cowardly act by any person, which is against the will of his maker, and this should not be even attempted by any person on this earth. But since we are going to deal with suicide as a point of law, suicide is the word derived out of two words, sui and ceder, the lower Latin words, which means taking one's own life. Even in dictionary meaning is this, that taking your own life willingly, intentionally, and voluntarily. So this suicide has been made an offense under the IPC. Attempt is an offense under section 309, and abetment to suicide is an offense under section 306. it has been debated and will continue to be debated whether right to life will presuppose a right to die. No doubt the validity of this, constitutional validity of Section 309 has been upheld, but in some part in 2018, the Supreme Court has gone into the euthanasia part. Earlier in 1994, they said the right to life presupposes the right to die, which was set aside by 1996 judgment in Gyan Singh's case. But now, as things stand today, 309 is an attempt to suicide, which is punishable. And now we are actually concerned with Section 306, which is abetment to suicide. Abetment to suicide has been, abetment has been defined under Section 107 IPC. I'll request Sumit to show the PBT. Abetment, next page please. Abetment means, next page please, come. Next page please. Yes, no, earlier one, sorry.
Sumit, previous page, yes.
Yes. Under Section 7, abetments mean instigation. That means instigating a person to do one act. It's not actually suicide only. It can be for murder, it can be for theft, it can be for dacoity or for rape, anything. Instigation. Instigation is one of the ingredients. Then the second is to engage with one or more persons in conspiracy for doing or not doing something which is illegal. And he engages in that form that in fact, the man who's being instigated or abetted does that thing, that is abetment. Then intentionally aids by willful misrepresentation and willful concealment of facts from a person to do or not to do anything for any purpose which is illegal. You can abet for legal purposes, but illegally we are concerned about something to commit a crime. So we, once these ingredients are complete, a person or any one of them is incomplete, the person is said to have abetted the doing of this crime or that crime. Now, I will not like to go through the earlier judgments which refer to the parts of the ingredients, but I will refer to the latest judgment. So with the next page, please. In the latest judgment of Gurcharan Singh versus State of Punjab, the Supreme Court has in fact held what constitutes suicide under Section 306 IPC. I'll just go through them. If you're ready with them, you can just read them. To constitute abetment, the intention and involvement of the accused to commission of suicide is imperative. That will mean that he has to intentionally and deliberately lead the person to commit a suicide. Otherwise, this will not be sufficient. Then, second point, the Honorable Supreme Court says, any severance or absence of any of these constituents would militate again. I think, sorry, you can just put it on. Any severance or absence of any of these constituents would militate against this indictment. Remoteness of the culpable acts or omissions rooted in the intention of the accused to actualize the suicide would fall short as well of the offense of abetment essential to attract the punitive mandate of Section 306. So the abetment has to be deliberate, intentional, and for the purpose to lead the person to commit suicide. Otherwise, it's not an abetment to commit suicide. Then the next, the Honorable Apex Court has held that continuity, culpability, and complicity of indictable acts omissions are concomitant indices of abatement. This criminalizes the sustained incitement of suicide. Absence of any of them would not make the abatement complete. So the next is there has to be clear mens rea. The man who is abetting a person, abetting any person to commit suicide must have this mens rea that the other person will be driven to commit suicide. So there has to be clear mens rea to commit an offense, and there ought to be an active or direct act leading the deceased to commit suicide being left with no option. So he has to work. The abatement has been described, has been rather now interpreted to mean all these acts of abatement, instigation, entering into all these factors, enticement, then misleading him, all this the person should have that motive that a person should commit suicide. And he has no other option but to commit suicide. Only then it will be mean to say that the person has abetted the commission of suicide. Now, in recent days, we have seen that a person has been admonished by employer. He comes and commits suicide. Well, will that be offense under section 306? On the very frivolous things, the persons are committing suicides, and then leave a suicide note that this man has done this man has done this, so I am committing suicide. Will it be 306? A person is demanding his money from the person who owes him. He goes there, asks for money. He doesn't give money, he commits suicide. Is it abatement to suicide? Recently, I have dealt with a case where the bank manager had gone to his client to ask for the loan back. The man asked, man asked for some time, but later on committed suicide, leaving a suicide note that I am committing this suicide because the bank manager is asking me for loan, for repayment of loan. Now, can he be held liable under 306 for abatement or suicide? Now, I think this Supreme Court has in fact crystallized that what abatement should be and what rather to charge a person under 306, all these factors, all these ingredients have to be complete. Only then offense under 306 is made up. But what we are seeing today is decision of FIRs on under section 306 for the reasons that the person had left a note that the person was demanding rent, the person was admonished by the employer, the other person was asking for money, or he was not giving money back. So all these things are leading to many kind of rather large number of FIRs against many people. Now the tricky aspect of this is that you have dying declaration to meet. In every case of suicide where the abatement is alleged, I think about 90% cases of there is a dying declaration, either oral, written, or recorded before a magistrate. Generally, the recording of the dying declaration before a magistrate comes only when the person has either consumed poison or burning. If he has committed suicide by other means, he is not alive to make any things, like if he's hanged himself or thrown himself before the railway or something like that. But the real issue will come only when he gives this dying declaration. So that is why I have chosen this word, this topic, to be together with the with dying declaration. So can I have the PPT, please?
Sumit has posted that dying declaration.
Yes, I've got it. Now, the dying declaration is based upon, again, a Latin proverb that nobody will meet his master with a lie in his mouth. Well, if we see, in ordinary circumstances, they may be right, but there are many people who can actually tell the lie. But as it is, we have to see what is dying declaration as defined in Section 32 of the Indian Evidence Act. In fact, the Indian Evidence Act, which defines the dying declaration, has gone beyond that proverb. I'll just read out how it has been enhanced. If I just go through 32(1) of the Indian Evidence Act, it will read, when it relates to cause of death, when the statement is made by a person as to the cause of his death or as to any of the circumstances of the transaction which resulted in his death, in case in which the cause of that person's death comes into question. Such statements are relevant whether the person who had made them was or was not at the time whence they were made under the expectation of death, and whatever may be the nature of proceedings in which the cause of death comes into question. So it can be, it has gone beyond that. It can be at any time what leading was there. It's not that on the bare circumstances which has led to his death, but any part made by him that is admissible in evidence. As held by Supreme Court in Lakshman versus State of Maharashtra in 2002, a dying declaration can be oral or in writing, and in any adequate method of communication, whether by words or by signs or otherwise, will suffice, provided that the indication is positive and definitive. Now, these, to my mind, leave a lot of gray areas. But it is rather a tool and rather the only evidence available with the prosecution when there is no other evidence, direct or indirect, to have this dying declaration to be made orally to brother, sister, or anybody else in the family, mother, father, or from anyone else, that he made this oral statement to me that why he is dying, and this is what has been done to me. So this is being used time and again to get the convictions once there is no other evidence available. I'll not be touching upon Section 304B, that is dowry death, where there is presumption under Section 113A and 113B of the Indian Evidence Act regarding the facts leading to the abetment of suicide by the brides. I'm just going to the aspects of ordinary suicides, or it's not an ordinary suicide, but the suicides other than the dowry deaths. So most of the time, this dying declaration is used to get the conviction of the accused, which, as per the law, does not require any corroboration if believable. I have got the latest judgment for you in the next page, Samit, as has been held in this latest judgment in 2020 by the Supreme Court, Purushottam Chopra versus State, the principles laid down to be for dying declaration are: a dying declaration could be sole basis of conviction even without corroboration if it inspires confidence of the court. Very dangerous. Court should be satisfied that the declarant was in fit state of mind. These are the checks which are used to get the accused benefit of doubt. The court should be satisfied that declarant was in a fit state of mind at the time of making the statement, and that it was voluntary statement which was not result of tutoring, prompting, or imagination. Where a dying declaration is suspicious or is suffering from any infirmity, such as want of fit state of mind of declarant or of like nature, it should not be acted upon without corroborative evidence. When an eyewitness affirms that the deceased was not in fit and conscious state to make a statement, medical opinion cannot prevail. The law does not provide as to who could record dying declaration, nor there is any prescribed format or procedure for the same. But the person recording the dying declaration must be satisfied that the maker is a fit state of mind and is capable of making the statement. Although the presence of magistrate is not absolutely necessary for recording of declaration, but to ensure authenticity and credibility, it is expected that a magistrate is requested to record such dying declaration and or attestation be obtained from other persons present at the time of recording of dying declaration. In Punjab and Haryana High Court, we have made amendment in the High Court Rules and Orders, and Chapter 13A has been added in Volume 3, where there is a prescribed procedure for recording of dying declarations by the executive and judicial magistrates. Though they are not being followed, rather they are being followed more in breach than in practice. But there are some guidelines, instructions, and rules on which the magistrates have to get the statements recorded. So that I leave the rest of them. This is if the court finds it is voluntary and coherent and consistent, there is no legal impediment in recording conviction on the basis of, even without corroboration. So we are left with a situation where we are in fact against a person who is not there, or rather he is dead. And a person accused has no means to cross-examine or to test the veracity of the dying declaration. So this is one of the gray areas where the law has to be settled or has to be interpreted in a manner where we can come to some conclusion as to what are the safeguards. No doubt these are the exceptions under the Evidence Act, but still there is a lot of problems in tackling these dying declarations if found to be inspiring confidence. Now, the suicide and declarations, why they were added together was because of the practical difficulties faced by the lawyers once they deal with such cases. The prosecution, of course, can prove that the person was in a fit condition to make this dying declaration by recording the statement of a doctor, if it is an oral or written statement. And it can also be said that we had told him that he's not bound to make a statement, and all other factors, they can prove this dying declaration. And of course, in all the oral dying declarations which are recorded by the magistrates, they are signed by the deceased, and they in fact get more credits than the other oral statements recorded by. Unfortunately, even the dying declaration before the police officer, which is otherwise not admissible, any other statement is not admissible under section 25 and 27 of the Indian Evidence Act, is admissible because it's being a dying declaration. So these things are there, which with the young lawyers and the people who are practicing on criminal side do face to in their day-to-day cases when they deal. So next page. Next page, Sumit. So these are the defenses which the dying declaration against the declaration which the defense can be defense that the relatives of the deceased prompted him. He was tutored to make a statement. They can say that those are the persons who were there. He was not in right frame of mind. He was under medication, delirium. He was not there mentally. He was like in all other cases, as in poison or burning, there will be a lot of painkillers and everything. So probably he is not ready to do that. Even if magistrate, we can say that he is not for the procedure. Then we can rather, this is a very gray area. Deceased was not told about the impending definite death. If he is not told that he is going to die, then the basic principle on which this dying declaration is formed, that nobody will meet the maker with a lie in his mouth, whether he was actually on the verge of death or whether he knew that he is going to die and that he cannot survive. At least in my long career, I have never seen a statement made by a doctor who says that he had apprised the deceased that there are no chances of his survival, he cannot survive, and he is going to die. But that what law is, this is gray area, the verge of death. Whether how can we interpret that he was going to die and he knew that he is not going to survive? Then other aspect can be saying that this was taken much earlier. This dying declaration recorded much days earlier than he died. Rather, if he dies after 1 month or 15 days, it cannot be held that he knew he is going to die. So this was my monologue for the evening. Any person who can, in fact, I have no idea. I am not getting the.
Two questions have been posed. The other persons can pose the question meanwhile. Jagjot Singh Lali, you know him very well. He poses the question, please explain the procedure which magistrate should have followed while recording the dying declaration.
I think he should go to chapter 13, volume 3, High Court Rules and Orders. There is specific, entire chapter is there. I don't have the copy of that with me, but we can always, broadly I know that this is, but exact words I will not be knowing. He has to record his satisfaction that he had explained to the deceased, he had got the opinion of the doctor, it was signed in his presence. All these factors are there in that. There's
Amanjot Singh Aluwalia has asked, what is the evidentiary value of a suicide note and how court determines that it is? How court determines that it is actually written by the same person and is not planted?
Well, there are many ways to prove this dying declaration. One is the handwriting expert the person who has seen him writing, all per se, it will not be admissible as such. They have to prove the dying declaration like any other document, that this was written by him, it is his handwriting. And it was not tutored, but that can't be there. But this has to be led with this way only. They will have to they'll have to prove it that way only, that it is written by him by examining his.
Amdanish asks, please elaborate factors that lead to rejection. Hello.
Just hold on.
Many, we are able to hear you.
Please, I have lost the.
No, we are able to hear you.
Okay.
Hello. Hello.
I'm just joining in. Please continue.
I'm doing that. Amjot has asked, what is the evidentiary value of a suicide note? No. Please, Amdanish, please elaborate factors that lead to rejection or an unreliability of a dying declaration.
Let me have the question. It's a very wide question. What's that?
Please elaborate the factors that lead to rejection or unreliability of a dying declaration.
I think we will go back to the judgment of the Supreme Court to hammer the point that if it is tutored, if the court finds it's a tutored, is not voluntary, or has been made for some extraneous considerations, then they have to rather. If I'll just give you an example, if there is dying declaration being recorded, and the relatives are also present in that room, we can always say that this man was present there. If he admits his presence, that it was recorded in my presence, so it will be not voluntary. It has been tutored. Rather, he had motive to make this statement. If he's talking about oral or suicide note, he's talking about oral. I don't have the question in front of me.
So you have a screen out there at your side also. The question has been posed by Amdanish. Please elaborate factors that lead to rejection or unreliability of a dying declaration.
Yes, those are the factors. Sumit, kindly have the PPT, the judgment first. I'll just point to the factors. Sumit, can I have the PPT, please? The judgment, latest judgment is saying so.
The 2017 or 2021?
2020.
Okay. I will ask Sumit, he will post it. Meanwhile, Raviraj asks, is there any minimum number of days stipulated after how many days the deceased dies for the purposes of dying declaration?
No. It can't be so. If the man, after making the statement goes into coma, there can't be any definite. So these are there.
So, Ravinder Randhawa has been kind enough, as he's always in the bar, kind enough to help. He has put the PPT for us. Thank you. Thank you, Ravinder.
This is the question answer to the first. The court should be said that declarant was in fit state of mind at the time of making of statement, and it was voluntary statement which was not result of tutoring, prompting, or imagination. And it can be rejected even on suspicion, because it's a very weak type of evidence. When a dying declaration is suspicious or is suffering from any infirmity, it can be contradicted by other evidence on the record also, even by the defense. If the defense shows something different than what has been said in dying declaration, then of course the court has to reject it. Or nature should be. There are two or three more points given there. If it is, if the medical opinion comes that he cannot record the statement, he's not in fit state of mind, the court can reject it. Or even if some witness says he is not in fit state of mind, even then it has to be rejected. The apex court has held that medical opinion will not prevail.
Rangat Gira says, what is the procedure to be followed in case of multiple dying declarations having been recorded? Example, by doctors, by police, and by the executive magistrate.
As per the settled law, I think the judgment recorded by executive magistrate is more authentic. It will be more later in time. It's going to depend on the circumstances of each case. If executive magistrate has recorded a statement earlier, rather, if there are multiple dying declarations, then there's no. I think it loses the credibility if they're not consistent with each other. If they are different, if each dying declaration is different, it itself is a ground to throw it out.
So can I ask Pavni also to pose questions in front of you so that it becomes easy, because some people are posing very long questions for me. So that will facilitate for you.
I've got it.
She can post it on the desktop or the laptop or whatever facility you are.
What position? This is there.
I will just ask. I will just show. Sushnit Goyal asks, how can we assess the credibility of a declaration for an enthusia or self-killing as permitted in Aruna Shongbag and this year by the common cause verdict?
Please come again. This is not on the screen.
Sushnit Goyal has posted.
No, it's not made with me.
On the chat box, Zoom group chat. Pavni, could you help him?
वो क्वेश्चन अलग हो गया है, वो नहीं आए.
Harish Chabra.
Harish Chabra.
I can Harish Chabra. What position in case that question has been answered by you.
What is the position in multiple declarations recorded by various persons?
Yeah.
How that a declaration of a person committing offence or should is given any weightage? That is under Article Section 132 of the Indian Evidence Act. That is what Section 32 says. It is admissible.
Then is by Harish Chabra. No, Harish Chabra we have dealt. Sushnit Goyal says, how can we that you have dealt? Mr. Lakhanpal, this question would not be on the screen because he has posed the question to me in a private chat box. He has asked two questions in two parts. What circumstances can an company possibly create for an employee to commit suicide, where such employer could possibly be prosecuted under Section 306? And what steps must a corporate organization? I will ask him to post it in because it's a very long question. It will break this thing.
So let's come to this next question.
Ishan, you post the question in the group chat itself. That becomes more easier for everybody.
Harpreet Kaur. We have this Harpreet Kaur. During lockdown, should I read that question? You have that Harpreet Kaur judgment question.
I'm just saying. I have Ishan's Vivek Bansal. Vivek Bansal's question I can read. Is the dying declaration admissible when the person so has not died, but while writing he was in a state of mind as of apprehending of death?
Can he actually
send it again?
Send it again?
Vivek Bansal.
Meanwhile, Harpreet Kaur.
Meanwhile, we can deal with Harpreet Kaur.
You can read that because I'm so many questions have come. 32 questions are there. I'm just checking it out. You can read that, Harpreet Kaur.
During lockdown,
if a person who was returning after purchasing groceries stopped by the police officer in a way and then police abuses and beats him, later on after returning to home, he tells the same to his family and thereafter commits suicide. Now, whether the police officer can be made liable 306, as although the police has done while discharge of duties, but he has actually authority because the grocery comes within the meaning of essential commodities and a person is allowed to go outside. Well, Harpreet, let me go back to the judgment of the Apex Court in 2017, which I had read, that this will not in fact come in the abetment of suicide because he had no intention to actually push you to commit suicide or do anything wrong. a batman, he can be charged of having acted in excess of his duties or illegally, but he had no intention to instigate or to actually entice you to commit suicide. So, police may register the case, but as per the law settled in 2017 by the Apex Court, 306 will not be made out. It's a case of a very sensitive person, but all sympathies to that person.
I will ask everyone that they should pose the question on the Zoom chat box, because then it will become inconvenient for Mr. Lakhanpal's team to work out there, and I can also read it. Otherwise, it becomes difficult. Some questions are very long in the private chat box to read, and then to make that team of Mr. Lakhanpal also to correlate with that.
Unstable.
Sir, what-
Okay.
Sachin poses.
Siddharth Mehta.
Sir, just read the time of the question, then it will be easier for me to understand. What is the question? What is the time when that question was posed? It will become easy for me to understand.
Sir, आप
637.
So let's read the questions first, because few questions have come prior in time.
Please do that. Start.
Yes. Ankush at 632 poses, as the dying declaration is also hearsay, how much it is reliable? Can defense raise suspicion on dying declaration?
Yes, that is what exactly I'm saying. This is an exception. Section 32 of the Evidence Act is an exception where these statements can be used. This is one of dying declaration is one of the circumstances. There are other circumstances also enumerated in Section 32 where the statements can be used. So it is an exception. It's not a hearsay evidence. It has been taken out from the ambit of hearsay evidence to a person, to an evidence which is admissible. I think if I can read out Section 32, the very first words, it will be very clear. Section 32.
Sumit or Randhawa, could you post that Section 32 on the screen? That becomes easier.
Yeah, I'll just read out 32 padi.
Oh, but they can also post it on the screen. They have been kind enough to.
I have not done it. I have not read the first part. I have just the relevant part, 32 one.
Ravinder Randhawa has posted that Section 32. Ravinder, just post it on the screen.
32 chief.
Ravinder.
I'll just read out.
I'll see. Sumit, kindly check if you can do it.
Kindly see. Case in which statement of relevant fact by a person who is dead or cannot be found is relevant. Some statements, written or verbal, or relevant facts made by a person who is dead or who cannot be found or who has become incapable of giving evidence.
Your PPT class Section 32 has been posted by Ravinder.
No. That is 32.1 only. It is there. Yes. Sorry, it's there. So these kindly read this. Read this. They've been in fact. This is an exception to all other places.
And nobody should scribble on the screen. It becomes very difficult for others, and it's not good on that part.
Cases in which statements relevant fact by a person who is dead or cannot be found. So they have been made admissible by law. So I think this answers the question or not?
Yes. Tushar Gupta, what if the client comes to you saying that someone has given him a threat that he will commit suicide and write the name in the suicide letter? What are the remedies left with the person, or what steps he can take in order to save himself from the threat?
Make a simple complaint to the police. What else? These are the only steps.
Aditi Agarwal, as our penal codes and the punishments in them are of reformatory nature, should attempt to suicide actually be made punishable instead of finding a way to reform the persons? What are your views and what are your takes on this part? Sir, it's not posted on the question, it's privately posted to me.
See, so that is being debated right from 1994 when the euthanasia or euthanasia, whatever you call that, the debate is going on whether the right to life presupposes a right to die. It's not as simple that right to speech presupposes a right to remain silent. See, it's a person. If your right to life does not mean you can take away the right. That's my view is this, that you actually can't take your life. I don't know why some people propagate it, but once a person commits suicide, it is in fact the entire family which goes down. The relatives, the friends. Why should be given if he's attempting a suicide, then of course whether it should be punishable or not, that is a secondary issue. There has to be some deterrent also. And it's a very minimal sentence, 1 year, and that also can be, I think this will be deterrent enough.
Atulji, it is also heartening to see that person from economic law practices, the famous law firm.
Same
From them, Rohit Sharma has posed a question: doctor verification to authenticate the dying declaration. Whether doctor verification for the authentication, the dying declaration is required or not.
If it is recorded by executive magistrate, it is not mandatory, but it is always a rule of prudence that it should be, this opinion should be there. Even if it is not there, suppose doctor is not available, that will not nullify the dying declaration. It is not absolutely mandatory.
Ravinder Dhawar is helping us in this screen sharing also, and at the same time, he's working very diligently. He has posed a question also at the same time. Ravinder, hats off to you. Whether it is incumbent upon the doctor to record his satisfaction regarding the fitness to make a statement of the person making statement to the magistrate.
Yes. But if doctor is available, then only. I say all these instructions are rules of prudence. They are not mandatory rules. The dying declaration cannot be thrown out on this account only. They have to see whether we will go back to judgment, same judgment again in 2020. That once it is found that it is reliable, the court finds its reliability, and it can be acted upon. They are all rules of procedure. They are not mandatory.
Farhan asked,
of course, benefit out can go to the accused, but simply on that ground, this can't be thrown out.
Farhan asked, if the dying declaration is suspected, is there any post-mortem takes place of the body to confirm deceased medical condition? Farah, could you reframe that question? Farah? Meanwhile,
no, he wants to say whether post-mortem can find out whether he was fit state of mind or not. I think in India, especially, there is nothing because of course the medical shows, like in some cases the neck has been cut completely, and it is said that he spoke. Then of course the benefit of doubt can go. That how could he make a statement when his vocal cords were cut?
Farhan, I have been just apprised that she's one of the finest corporate lawyers who has posed the question. She was Farhan Naz is an ex-Vodafone litigation head.
Okay. Say my head were. And thanks for joining.
That's what I'm saying. It's very heartening that people are pan-India, people from very corporate have come. So that is why it goes akin to the name beyond law.
Yeah, that's it. It's beyond boundaries.
Ishan, what if the dying declaration, that question is posed at 6:38. What if the dying declaration does not support chain of circumstances? Then does it need any other corroboration?
Yes, if it is suspected, the judgment I am referring to, why I took out one judgment only is because it's the latest and rather summarizes the entire thing. If the dying declaration is not found to be genuine, then the court has to look for corroboration. Whether the circumstances in which it has been made, whether he is telling a truth or not, The other circumstances can, of course, it can be dislodged like any other evidence. There is nothing, no presumption attached to truthness of this dying declaration. It can be non-suited for many other reasons.
Amit Prashar, again, a very young and dynamic lawyer out in the High Court. All pardons to me, to the persons, since it is a common practice. The lawyers who are practicing in the Punjab and Haryana High Court, we know them. So sometimes uncalled for bias also comes. Amit Prashar, what suicide is whether suicide is a decision taken in the spur of the moment or in a fit of anger. Number two, whether any alleged suicide note running 7-8 pages can be taken as a dying declaration.
There is no hard and fast rule of how long or short can be the suicide note. I think the famous that CM's case, that suicide note runs into 104 pages.
Arunachal Pradesh.
Yes, Arunachal Pradesh. Pul, his name was Pul. And what was the other part?
Just hold on. I will ask, meanwhile, Pavni will help you. Harish Chhabra, what
Amit
क्या
Amit Prashar.
कहाँ लिखा
ये पापा.
अच्छा
Sachin,
Amit Prashar first point. ये देख लो अगर बड़ा है.
Sapan Dheer is asking, how dying, I will ask meanwhile Amit to post the question again. Sapan Dheer, again he has been the vice president of the bar, a very dynamic lawyer, you know him very well. How dying declaration can be proved to be made by the deceased person actually? How dying declaration can be proved to be made by the deceased person actually? This question is at 6:51.
How the dying declaration can be proved to be made by the deceased person actually? Well, as I told you, if it is suicide note, his handwriting has to be compared, whether he has written that or signed that. If it is oral, if it is recorded by a magistrate, then he has to sign it. And what was that?
Sapans is at 6:52. How dying declaration can be proved to be made actually by the deceased person?
His signatures are there on the suicide note, or even if his signature are not there, his handwriting is there. It can be verified, compared by the handwriting expert. Of course, all these notes are written. Suicide notes are not written in public; they'll be written in some private place. So they can always be matched with his known handwritings, and from that, his identity can be fixed.
Adhikar Premier, what are the challenges in giving effect to a dying declaration?
What are the challenges in giving effect to a dying declaration? Yes, a dying declaration challenges are, since it is made by a person who is not there. So it has to be a very authentic piece of evidence, and it has to be like any other circumstantial evidence. This can be dislodged. It's a kind of a circumstantial evidence. It's not so we can dislodge this evidence by many means. We can, as earlier said, that we can say that he was being tutored. He had earlier been tutored. His wife had met him. His husband had met him. His father had met him. He had told him to name somebody. There are many things on which it will depend. The doctor was biased. Doctor was mixed up. See, all these are practical tools which has to be used by the defense counsel.
So it's a very basic question. Since large number of we on this platform, we are also having large number of participants who are either studying in law or in other fresh entrants. Could you just elaborate what is circumstantial evidence? Slightly for their benefit. What do you mean by circumstantial evidence as such?
Circumstantial will mean circumstances leading to that evidence. Circumstances can be Like ordinary general practice we see is last seen. This is the last seen, and this dying declaration is one of them. All these circumstances that he was last seen there in his company, that man had come to his house in that company. So all these circumstances leading to his death, like section 106 is presumed that he was seeing a last scene in his capacity and he was there. So it is presumed that he was there. So it is 106 is there. Then there are other provisions which say circumstantial evidence, which are, there is no direct evidence to this, but the circumstances prove, like we have his blood-stained clothes, weapon of offense matching the blood. All these circumstances are there. And if it connects with the accused, of course, there can be no doubt. Again, I say that it can be lead to conviction, but still it is very weak type of evidence.
With the leave of the participants, I'm just saying, मतलब ਅਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੇ ਹਾਲਾਤ ਦੇਖਨੇ.
हाँ.
ठीक. Bhavjeet, can dying declaration be discarded on the ground that the victim was suffering 100% burn injuries? Question is at 651.
No. As per the well-settled law, even when he is 100% burned, medically he is mentally conscious. And we have to see is not his physical condition, but mental condition. If the doctor satisfies that his that person was mentally fit and was could even the magistrate, generally it is being recorded by before the magistrate or a doctor, that he knew what he was saying. And the percentage of burns depends on which part is there. It's not really that entire, see, percentage also is worked. Percentage of burns is also worked in a different ways. 100% doesn't mean that the entire body has been burned or he cannot speak. Even with 100% burns, people survive for much longer time.
If a dying declaration is done before the magistrate, but doctor has not given any opinion in written,
that has already come.
Person is forfeit to make a statement. What is the effect of that?
I say their credibility can be shaken on this, but it can't be thrown out on this ground only. If it is proved that doctor was not available, it is for the prosecution to prove the declaration. Simply because doctor has not given this, it can't be thrown out. It is of course, a circumstance in favor of the accused, rather will help the defense, but it cannot be.
Harpreet Kaur has posed a question. I would say that she would have to reframe that question again so that I could put it across. Harpreet and Manik Makkad. If a dying declaration is a message on WhatsApp or any post on Facebook or any of the media, how can it be verified if it was done by the same, whether it was done by the deceased person?
I think it's a very technical question. Rather, now we have a lot of, it can be, in fact, certain now. We will have to follow the procedure section 65B to prove any electronic record. But I think maybe there is some technology to find out that who has used it. I'm not aware of it.
Vaishnavi Sikka, can you please throw light on the concept of living will? Vaishnavi Sikka.
Yeah, that is what the latest this latest judgment by the Supreme Court in 2018, where they have allowed euthanasia in some kind of cases. That concept of living will has been discussed in that judgment, but and they have allowed this kind of patients to die their own death. But anyway, there are also full of lacunas. It can be misused. It can be used. I say it will be ongoing debate. Nothing is going to be certain.
Vivek Bansal has reposed. Is the basis is the base? Varun, you have posed that thing. Could you pose that question again? I will read it for Mr. Lakhanpal. Then, is the basis substance behind the admissibility of the dying declaration is the state of mind of the person dying? That is by Vivek Bansal. Varun, meanwhile, you can pose that question again. 652, 651. I stand corrected. No, 7 o'clock. Vivek Bansal.
What's the name?
7-1. The basis of substance behind the admissibility of the dying declaration is the state of mind of the person dying, that apprehending death he will not lie.
I think it's a very long question. Let them reframe into a.
Yes, I was also saying.
Huh?
He will pose the question again. Meanwhile, one person said that it posed a question.
Good evening, Varun.
So, I will just unmute him. Just hold on. Yes, Varun, you can ask the question.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening, Chief. Hi, Varun. I'm not getting your voice.
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Audible.
Yeah. So my
Welcome,
question
Varun.
is with respect to employers.
Varun, you can show yourself.
I'm sorry.
I know him.
No, you may know him, but others.
Okay.
पर्दे को उठने दो.
No problem. Haji.
Sorry, this is my COVID-19 look, so please ignore. So I
are all
happen
the same look.
yes, I happen to advise a lot of employers and mostly corporates. And while I understand the general rule that in the case of employer-employee relationships, an employer cannot be held responsible. At the same time, when you have foreign directors on the board of a company, and typically in the case of India, where the notice or someone is directly received in the name of the director, so all your Gora directors, they at very time sort of want to run away. In such a scenario, what could be the steps that a corporate could take? So, for example, trainings, imparting trainings, etc., which could sort of push them away from a remote issue of even getting looped in a abetment of suicide case? Or what are the other chances that, on the other hand, an employer could create for its employees, which could possibly have some sort of an exposure towards this particular offense?
Varun, I must come straight to you on this subject because it is nobody has held that the employer cannot be held responsible for the suicide. See, if there is continuous chain of events that he was being harassed in such and such manner, and such manner every day he was being tortured every day to this, and he had no option since the people who are employees are have-nots in the sense that they are dependent on the employer, and they create a situation where the person has no option but to die. But especially in the case of ladies of sexual harassment, that can be there are chances of employer being charged and actually convicted for offense under Section 306.
Because a lot of times, sir, what we advise typically is, yes, absolutely, sexual harassment is a great example. And when we come to performance incentive plans or PIPs, I mean, those are plans which, time and again, we put employees on such plans. But the typical threat that we keep getting from them is that, we are mentally suffering, our families are mentally suffering, and eventually one fine day, a notice is received from the cop that join investigation and such person is no more. So that is the time when for a big corporate, such as a multinational company or whatever, they face that trouble, and sort of we have to advise and take that call at that point of time. So that is where I was looking for certain steps that, despite as a corporate organization following all possible corporate governance measures, still for the directors more particularly, they face a lot of heat from the local police. So that is where I was coming from. But Thank you for your inputs.
Probably Varun was putting up in sector 16. After
Yes,
seeing his
sir.
face, I am recollecting.
That is correct. That is correct. I'm
Probably
Honestly, I have not applied my mind on this aspect of this case, but of course, I'll get back to you when I apply the mind on what steps can be taken to prevent all these things, because
sure, sir.
I have no option, I have no experience of when being in corporate sector.
Sure, sir. That will be very helpful.
Because
that will be a great value add, sir.
Probably after meeting Varun after around 8-10 years, he was putting up in 575, I suppose.
That is precisely correct, sir.
You will tell his car number also, which is the car, I know that.
Again, the car number is 575.
Yes, that is correct. But thank you. It's a great session and very, very informative. More particularly for people like us, who are more on the corporate side than on the criminal side. So this is a great value add, and which we happen to take back to our clients.
You have inherited the criminal brain. Don't worry.
I'm lucky. I have leaders like you.
Yeah.
Varun doesn't have a criminal brain. He has a brain for cracking the criminal logics.
Sir, he has inherited the criminal brain, not.
That's what I mean. His hard people are actually quite wise.
Anyway, not,
right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, sir.
We will seek pardon from the participant that we slightly went off the cuff.
Okay, let's go straight.
Varun Lamba has posed a question.
What?
I don't think
that we have done.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? Vikrant, he's on the board. He can also ask the question directly. He has posted on the.
Is the dying declaration visible when a person dying lost direct function?
Vikrant, Kumbu.
That will not, huh?
Vikrant probably is left after posting the question.
Okay. Then there is one by Vivek Bansal.
We had asked him to reframe it.
Is the dying...
Vikrant, I'll just unmute him. Vikrant would like to answer. That is why we tell to the people that they should come with the names forward. They come with iPads, iPhones, and that is why we say that asli chehra samne aaye. Vikrant, you change your name, then only I can unmute you.
Is the dying declaration visible when a person giving declaration has not died subsequently? It won't be dying declaration then, yeah. Well, what else?
That's what I'm trying to see. I can read Vikrant's question. The court, in order to satisfy whether the deceased was in a fit mental condition to make the dying declaration, looks up to the medical opinion. But where the eyewitnesses has said that the deceased was in a fit conscious state to make the dying declaration, is a dying declaration, the medical opinion will prevail or not?
I think the Supreme Court was dealing with an opposite case where the eyewitness said that that he was not in fit state of mind, but the doctor has said it. I think the person who is making the statement that he was fit, his credibility has to be shaken. In that case, in that eventuality, the proximity of the witness to the deceased will be the main criteria to be seen. In that case, independent witness of a doctor will be more authentic and reliable.
Sachin, it has been seen that a person suicides and makes allegation that the person forced him to repay his loan. A person who has given his money wants it back. What about his right to say to give his money back?
He can, in fact, he can enforce his right against his legal heirs. If it is a legal debt and it is under the contract, or if it's a loan given legally, he can enforce it against his heirs. What stops him?
I will read Bhavjeet's question and then it's already 7:10. Last question thereafter. If dying declaration is recorded by the magistrate in the absence of fitness certificate from the doctors to his satisfaction, but later doctor testifies that the patient was not under intoxication, under the influence of medicine. In that case, what will be the credibility of the dying declaration? Bhavjeet's question is at 7.3.
As I've earlier said, that it is a very weak type of evidence. It has to be very clear and reliable piece of document. Any doubt on this dying declaration makes it a suspect document, and the court can form a different opinion. That's why I say that once the court finds that it is a document which can be relied upon and has been made voluntarily and without tutoring, once this all this padding has been done for the dying declaration, then it will depend on the court and other circumstances. I can't actually pass a judgment on this.
Thank you,
But
sir. We don't have any other further questions. I would like to thank you on behalf of Beyond Law CLC. I can say after hearing you, though I've been meeting you off and on in the High Court, at your place, etc., it is a wonderful session. The enrichment, what I received today. Otherwise, in the ordinary course, we go off the track, we don't ask. The persons, the lawyers out here or the professionals who didn't attend the session, they would always definitely miss. But for them, we have created a platform of video they can see on the YouTube as well as Facebook. And those who want to be connected with the group, they can connect on the WhatsApp group, on the Facebook page and Instagram. And meanwhile, I call upon Mr. Narinder Hooda, who's again a very dear friend of ours, though in Delhi, but still remains close to our hearts. Narinder, just propose a vote of thanks on behalf of us. I'm unmuting you.
Yeah, good evening, friends. First of all, I would thank Mr. Vikas Chatrat for assigning me the most pleasurable job of giving thanks. Thanksgiving is always a very soothing experience. And again, giving thanks to Mr. Atul Lakhanpal, who is an elder brother, a mentor, an erudite, prolific lawyer. And I really thank you, Mr. Lakhanpal, for sharing your knowledge, your updating us on law, and sparing time in this coronavirus depressing time. And I would thank Beyond Law CLC team for developing this amazing platform for sharing knowledge, inviting the subject experts. So they are doing a commendable job under the aegis, of course, of again Mr. Vikas Chatrat. And I would thank each and every participant who has come on this platform, actively participated, posed questions, and of course got answers from Mr. Lakhanpal. Thank you all. Hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much.
Hooda Saab, thank you for all the kind words. For all the participants, tomorrow we have two, again, sessions which will enhance the knowledge for everyone. In the morning, we will be having Mr. Baldev Raj Mahajan, who is Advocate General Haryana. He will speak on the topic, specific law, specific relief act and its journey. And in the evening, we will have Vikram Chaudhary, who will speak on the journey of Punjab, prevention of money laundering act. So all those who want to connect on the Facebook, WhatsApp, and the Instagram. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe.
Will you please give me a moment to say something?
You are the master of the show.
No, you are the master of the show.
No, not at all.
You can unlock me, you can unmute me, you can do anything.
We have always been an assisting counsel. The senior counsels can always show the path.
No, but still, once you are an assistant counsel, you can always shut down the senior counsel. So that is why I said, can you? No, I must sincerely thank you from the bottom of my heart for arranging a platform like this. And in fact, when you shared this idea with me, I said you must go ahead with this kind of a platform. And I just shared, I said, I just did buck up. and the time and the energy you have invested in this platform, Vikas, it's really commendable. And I think after you started it, there are many people who have come forward. And in fact, this is a platform, like Mr. Huda has already said, quite a depressing time is going on. Like, we are not used to sit at home. The first thing is that. And for that, providing a platform like this, people, even if may not be getting everything, nobody is ready. Nobody can take everything from any session or conference. But I think it's a very valuable kind of interaction. I must thank Mr. Huda for the kind words. Mr. Huda, thank you very much. I am actually not what you have told me that I am, but anyway, good words are always welcome. So Vikas, your team, Mr. Sumit Jain, I don't know the rest of the names.
Devika, Riddhi, Siddhi, Sapan, they have all done an extremely good job. The team's motto is I is illness, we is wellness. So they said that during the time of COVID, let's become we and let's make it wellness during these times.
That's great. That's great. So my message is,
there is a Facebook link that is already shared by Devika. Devika can again post that again on the group chat. Over to you, sir.
So my message is, don't get frustrated. Be at home. Stay safe. You enjoy whatever you have in the house. Don't go outside. You have got the rare opportunity of being here in the home. So please enjoy the time. Don't get frustrated. Thank you very much. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you. We part and meet tomorrow again at 11 o'clock with Mr. Baldev Raj's margin session. The Advocate General Haryana. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Welcome. Swasth raho, mast raho. Abad raho.
Thank you. Thank you.